I'm from Northern Virginia, right outside of DC. So I grew up there and I got into trumpet. Actually, my father tricked me into playing. So before fifth grade, when everyone chooses their instruments, he had one up in the attic and he said, "Hey, why don't you go pull it, bring it down and I'll teach you a couple scales and things like that." And so, of course, I forgot all those immediately. But the next day when we went into band, they said, "Hey, do you want to play trumpet?" Or, which instrument do you want to play? I said trumpet because, that's what we've been just, doing. And as far as, after that, I just started getting good, I think, in maybe 11th grade. After I got my braces off, kind of relearned how to play, got a teacher. And then, yeah, I started getting good. And then I think in my brain, that was just the logical only direction to go. There's a group still going called AYP, the American Youth Philharmonic. And there was different subsets of that. There was the symphony orchestra, there was the string orchestra. There was no wind ensemble version, but I was in that orchestra, I think, for maybe 3 years, as well as a brass ensemble that I was in called Brass of Peace, that was formed by a former National Symphony member. I was in that for a couple of years. I got into Juilliard for my undergrad, and I went there for 4 years, and I went to Northwestern University for my master's. New York was very different than Virginia, where I grew up, in a good way. I was exposed to so many different things. I mean, there you're actively working with vocalists, dancers, drama students, and people that I've seen actually in plays and movies since. So you see these people and you're like, oh, I know them before they were famous, which is pretty cool. That was really eye-opening because in Virginia, in my area, I was kind of it was the big fish in the little pond, right? And then you go into New York and you go to Juilliard and everyone's the big fish. And going in there at 18, I was definitely not the big fish anymore. So I had a lot to learn from that. And that really set me up. I had some great teachers there and great other people in the studio that helped me become a better player. And then that progressed into going to Chicago at Northwestern, where it was a similar deal. But I kept getting better and better, and my colleagues kept getting better and better. And so we kind of all helped each other. It was a really good vibe there, where everyone supported each other. And you would see these people at auditions too. So I just started this year. I was doing a little bit of coaching and things last year, but this year is my first year of full faculty on that. So it's a great school so far. We have really strong players. The orchestra and wind ensemble obviously are very fantastic as well, led by some very dynamic conductors, which is really helps get the students involved. You're studying with a lot of people that are in the Dallas Symphony, Dallas Opera. There's people that drive all over the place to come and teach there, but they're a really good faculty, and I think if you're studying with those people, and then your colleagues are studying with them, and everyone kind of learns from each other that way. A great teacher pushes you to push yourself. I mean, initially when you have a teacher when you're maybe in high school, a lot of times you just need, or middle school, you need someone to just kind of build you up and get you to a place where you can kind of start learning almost. Where before we're just worrying about trying to make a good sound, trying to make sure we put the right fingerings down, very simple things like that. And trumpet players are still worrying about that even at the high level playing. But then it's okay, once we get that basis down, can you start thinking for yourself? Can you start understanding what is a good sound, what's a bad sound, and then kind of, how things work, how they don't work, and learning from your mistakes, not just repeating the same, thing over and over again. You don't have to be the best player. You don't have to be going into music. I just want somebody that, is trying and cares about what they do. And every student is different. Everyone needs a different sort of language. So once you kind of develop, and figure out what they need, wording wise and everything, then it makes it a lot easier to teach them. Well, Dallas reminds me of Atlanta in many ways. That it's a sprawling metropolis here, and it's a very large city. You have to drive to get everywhere. That's just part of the culture here. It's a little bit hotter in the summers, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But so far it's great, and there's a great food, restaurant scene, art scene as well. I really love having the Meyerson Symphony Center, having this a beautiful hall and this great complex around it, and then you have the opera right next door and their beautiful hall, and you have this kind of like art center. So that's a very nice sort of vibe. That reminds me a little bit of like New York Lincoln Center, where everything's kind of, you have this like big clump of arts in one area. So this is more or less what we call the kind of the second trumpet concerto ever written, or for modern instrument anyway, because trumpets before then could really only play a certain number of notes. It was not chromatic. You could play part of a scale, but not a whole thing. Um, but this is the second one. So the first one was the Haydn Trumpet Concerto, written for a performer called Anton Weidinger. He's the guy who developed this new kind of trumpet called the keyed trumpet. And this is the second concerto, actually written for him as well. But Hummel was a student of Haydn and took over his post in the Esterhazy court. But so this is the first concerto really written where things are chromatic. So you'll hear in the second movement, especially, you have minor keys now, which are available to you, because before it was just major keys. You have chromatic ability, so there's a lot of trills that are half step and whole step trills, which just weren't possible before. So this is very exciting. Now we take it for granted. We think, yeah, of course you should be able to play every single note. But back then, this was kind of groundbreaking and like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But again, that was I think it was written in 1803. So it's trumpet has developed a bunch since then. Well, if anyone's interested in taking lessons with me, the easiest thing to do is you can find me on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, and I have a website. It's stevensontrumpet.com. Or if you talk to Mr. John Giulio, he can give you my contact information, and I'm happy to listen to anyone. I teach trumpets primarily, but I've also done some work with trombones, horns, tuba, because I think they're always looking for a different perspective, and vice versa. Sometimes I'll take a lesson and play for non-trumpet players so they can, because we all think about things differently. But that's the easiest way. I'm on all those socials, and then I have my website. I'm really excited to be performing this with the group. I coached the students in the top orchestra on Sunday, and that were great. They were well prepared.